Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. It'll just be about 2 or 3 minutes. We're just going to give it time for everyone to log on. And I'm just making sure we are recording.
Yes, looks like we're good.
Okay.
Hey, Ash. See, she's on.
We have our team here. Hope everyone had a good day at work today. What day is it? Tuesday?
Say the 15th.
Tuesday, Monday, Wednesday, I don't know sometimes. It's Tuesday. I hope everyone had a good day. It's cold here in New York.
Is it?
It is.
It's starting to drop, yes.
It was like 55 degrees this morning. I was like, wait a minute, it's too soon for that.
Yeah, summer's over, unfortunately.
It's a wrap. It is a wrap. But it is what it is. The seasons evolve.
As long as it doesn't get too cold. I heard Denver last week went from about 90 degrees to snow and then back up to 85, 90 again. So I wouldn't want to be in that situation.
Global warming. That's global warming.
I wouldn't want to be in that situation, but yeah, they were.
Okay. Oh yeah, we gotta have a good amount of people. We're just gonna give it another minute or two to let everyone get a chance to log in. Hello, everybody. See a lot of our team here. And I hope I have a light. We are so excited to have everyone join us today. We're going to have a great discussion with Connie Orlando. This is something that we've wanted to do for the past couple of years, to sit down and speak with her, and we have finally gotten the opportunity. So we are in for a treat and a really good discussion. We just really want to kind of dig in deep and chat and kind of just be relaxed and kind of dig into our professional development and the ways that we manifest and kind of control our own destiny. So it's going to be a great, great discussion. Hi, Lakeisha. How are you?
Hey, Lakeisha. We have NAMIC Virginia president here today.
Okay, we're gonna get started in just a second. So we'll wait till 6:05. It's 6:04. We already have a pretty full house. Take a sip of my tea. Carvel, have you still been running?
Yes, so I actually ran right before today, so.
Very good. You're inspiring me. I need to move a little bit.
Yeah, with the gyms being closed, there wasn't any option to really work out, even though they're back open. You know, they're at 30% capacity, so it's kind of tough to get to the gym. So
I know. Well, you're doing the right thing.
Just a little cardio, yeah, keep my health up.
Okay, we can get started. Carvel, you can kick it off at 6:05. Thanks,
Sure.
everyone, for joining us.
Sure. Thank you, Rahdiah. My name is Carvel Wallace, and I'm the Vice President for NAMIC New York. For those who aren't aware, NAMIC is the National Association of Multi-Ethnicity and Communications. We have 18 chapters all throughout the United States, 4,000 members approximately in total, and well over 700 members in the New York City market. We advocate, educate, and empower for diversity in the media entertainment space. We put on lots of professional development programs. Prior to the pandemic, they were all in person. However, since March, we've done everything via Zoom and online platforms. So for next week, for right now, we do have our executive series. We're kicking off today with Connie Orlando. And then next week, we have our series with Michael Bivens from New Edition. And then we also have in the next few weeks our debate watch parties for the presidential and vice presidential debates. So that's my introduction. For those who want to know more about NAMIC, you can go to our websites, namic.com and also namicnewyork.com to find out what's happening at the local level. So from there, I will send it over to Rahdiah.
Thank you, Carvel. Appreciate it. Welcome, everybody. For those who don't know me, my name is Rahdiah Barnes, and I'm the president of NAMIC New York. And I just want to welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. I know a lot of you are just getting off of work. This is a great evening that we're going to have. This is going to complement your work because this is good. You can add this to your professional development. This is going to be a really great discussion. I am going to introduce Connie Orlando, our speaker for the Executive Leadership Series. I just want to read a little bit of her bio. It's extensive, it's long, very impressive, but I'm going to give you some of the highlights. Constance Orlando most recently served as Executive Vice President and Head of Programming at Black Entertainment Television, BET, with oversight on all genres of original programming. As renowned award-winning media executive, Constance Orlando has risen to become the highest ranking and most treasured Black woman at any TV network, and she's just getting started. I love that. Orlando has been with BET since 2007, and her tenure has been marked by groundbreaking success and an ever-growing reputation as one of the top media executives in the business. Her creative vision helped BET scale its operations and expand its global footprint. Orlando will serve as executive producer of all BET Network's tentpole events, including the BET Awards, the #1 award show on cable among African-American viewers, as well as returning series American Soul, Games People Play, and Uptown Record Story. Okay. So I just want to get started. There's so much here, but you can kind of walk us through everything. But I just want to get started with your story. Where did you grow up? How did you become interested in media? And what did your beginnings look like?
So one, just thank you for having me. I'm so excited about today's conversation. I grew up in New York from South Jamaica, Queens, and I went to Syracuse University where I was a finance major, and I did not take one media class at school. I'm great at numbers, so my family was very, first one in the family to go to college, and they were like, okay, you're gonna be a lawyer, a doctor, or an accountant. So I'm great at numbers. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do the finance route. But after college, I was hired as a senior analyst at Chase Bank, and my friends on the weekends wanted to be a music video director. So she would just enlist, I'm an AKA, so she was my SAN. She's like, oh, come help me on my music video. And, I started just leisurely in productions, and I kind of realized at that point that that's kind of where I wanted to be. I love music. It was a new world for me. And I just, after about a year and a half, I quit the bank to kind of follow my dreams of being a PA, wherever that led. And at the time, music videos were just really getting started. So I was on the uptick of this huge marketing tool. And through that, I became a production assistant to production coordinator, to production manager, and then producer. I wanted more stakes in the budget. So I created a production company to run music videos through. And for about 4 years, was it 4 years? Maybe 3 years, we had success. I did videos all over the United States. They were small budgets then. They were like, if you got $10,000, you were doing it big. And people always tried to hook me up with Harold Williams because he was from Queens, and everybody from Queens knows each other. But he was also coming into starting his own production company, and he was a music video director. And we had a lot of false starts because either I was on a job or, you know, it didn't line up. And then one day he called me and he said, hey, I have a video with, you know, the first one with my production company with Jay-Z and Mary J. Blige, Can't Knock the Hustle, and I want you to produce it. I was just moving into Manhattan and I dropped everything. He called me on a Wednesday, the video shot on Saturday. And I think the rest is history. I became one of his producers, still having my company. But I was in the Big Dog Films mix, and you know, we went on to do some of the biggest, and we went from those 15. Well, no, I think the lowest I did with Hype was around $100,000 videos to videos that were $2 million. Yeah, it was a great run, and I think that really taught me creativity. Like Hype is a visionary, and he just taught how to look at things and have no boundaries. You can always reel it back in, but you shouldn't start from a place that you're reeled in. And from that, I was with Hype for probably about 7 years, and I then became interested. I love film, so I was like, you know, I think the next step for me is producing film. And another good friend of mine said, oh, well, you should try television. Because the producer is king in television, and film is the director. And I started freelancing on different projects, and then I ended up at BET. As a freelancer, I did their New Faces search, which was, you know, the search that found Terrence and Roxy. And I started doing little jobs, and then they hired me to create a show that Stephen Hill wanted to do called The Five. And I was the executive producer of that show, and I was about to leave. I had gotten another job offer, and the president at the time, Reginald Hudlin, he called me and said, hey, we have a VP of development job in New York, and would you be interested in it? And the rest is history. I started as VP of development at BET, and I've gone all the way, you know, well, now I am EVP of Specials, Music Programming, and Music Strategy. I've been head of programming. I've been SVP of Specials, Music Programming, and News. And I've been VP of Original Programming. So it's been quite a ride.
That is incredible. How was it? How was that transition? So you were in finance. Was it easy to trust your voice, the inner voice that's saying, you know what, I want to do something else. I think that my purpose is in production. Was it easy to do that?
You know, it wasn't, because this is the first, you know, you're 21 and you've kind of accomplished everything your parents wanted you to. You graduated from college, you have a job with benefits, because that was a big thing. You had to have your benefits.
Right.
And you get this yearning, like I was doing this stuff. And I didn't really, even initially, I didn't see it as, you know, a career path. I just thought it was fun. And then to really start, when I really started feeling that pull, like it was a real conversation. You know, at home. Like, okay, you're gonna leave this job that's steady for, and I think back then PAs made $40 a day, something crazy. And my parents didn't understand it. So, but I think at that age, you have to at least try. You should at least try. I always felt that I had the finance degree I could always fall back on.
Right.
But, you know, let's try it out.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, because you'll never know. If you don't try, you'll just never know. Do you believe in the power of manifestation?
So I do believe that what you think you become. I absolutely believe that. I also believe, like, you know, I'm very spiritual. So like calling those things into existence calling those things into existence as if they were. And I think I think our mindsets become our North Stars. So I'm very intentional about what comes out of my mouth. I think you can speak life or death over anything. So I try to be positive. Even if you look at 2020 and everybody's canceling 2020, I was like, no, you know, the first 9 months have been challenging, but you know, I'm not going to call that on the full year. And I've always kind of been that way, just trying to be positive and just trying to see paths forward. But I do believe you do need your North Star that guides you. And as long as you have that in terms of where you want to go, the things you do along the way, you know, will help you get there. And it makes your focus, you know, a little bit more intense to kind of attain those things.
Definitely. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Um, so you have had such success at BET. Have you set career intentions? Did you set your goals out ahead of time and you said, you know what, I want to start in this position, possibly work my way this way? Maybe it's just a role that you attributed to making you feel more fulfilled. Um, how do you set your career intentions if you do?
You know, it's interesting. So when I decided to go, I had been freelance, and even when I worked with Hype, it was an independent company. BT is my first network job in this big company, and I think when I first got there, you know, super excited. I don't even think I could. I wasn't like I'm going to be the VP of development with the hopes of becoming head of programming. I think that kind of came along the way. And to be quite honest, I don't think I visualized that. Maybe like I know I wanted to after being a VP for a while, you know, when I was offered the SVP position of specials music and news, it was an exciting challenge for me because I was like, okay, I want to be the only executive at BET that has worked in every genre of programming, you know? So that was like a box check. And I was like, okay, so of course I'm gonna do this. And then that way it also got me back to music, which was my roots. And it was exciting. Like I like to challenge myself. I think you should always try to push and do more, just so that you're learning. And then, you know, and even there, I could have never predicted that I would be, you know, asked to be head of programming. You know, it was great, but it wasn't. I'm not gonna lie and say, oh yeah, that was my goal all along. And now, you know, to take BT back to music and strategy, it was all in the plan. But my plan always was to be, you know, a high-ranking network exec and top of my field. And I guess with that being my North Star, everything lined up. I was like, okay, you're gonna be this, and now I'm gonna do this. So I have all the bases covered, so I know how to do it all. And it just led me down a path. I kind of believe, and it's funny because all my elevations at BET have all been like, I did not start them like, oh, I want to go do this. I think I've always been a fan of doing the work, and people are watching us at all times. Like when I became VP of original programming, there was a young lady who was a receptionist. Well, she was an assistant. And every morning, because I'm an early bird, I'd get to the office early and I would notice her. And she was working and she's always dressed nice, very, you know, doing her work. So when I got tapped to be a VP, you know, for my assistant, I was like, you know what, I want this young lady because I've been watching her, and you just see it and you sense people's work ethic and, you know, how they show up.
Yes, I love that. And I love how you moved around. I think that is so important. Actually, Carvel and I were having a conversation earlier this week about how it is looked upon now differently than back in the day. If you were to stay at your job for 20 years in the same position, that was kind of commended. And now it's kind of frowned upon a little bit. Oh, you've been there in your same role for, you know, 5-6 years. And you didn't want to move around, you know, an interviewer may ask you why. So that's something, you know, that's a big difference. Because I remember, you know, it was such a big thing to say, you know, I've been at my job for 20 years and, you know, I'm getting my gold plaque. But the fact that you kind of moved around, you've touched everything, you have expanded your knowledge. I think that's very important when you're really trying to progress.
No, and I agree. And it's funny because I think before I went to BT, like I had done a lot of different things. And I think it helped me get the job. My advice to, you know, young people just starting, like it's fine to be someplace for a few years, but just make sure you're growing at that place.
Right.
And outside knowledge, it's always good to, you know, if you get another offer, to go out and explore, because I think the way I do things at BET is not the way they do things at Disney, is not the way they do things at OWN. And I think there's a best practices that you gotta kind of sift through a few things, so you're just not stuck in the way I may have, you know, BET has you do things. So I always encourage, you know, exploration. But I think I'm fine. Like I've been at BET for 13 years now, and you know, I've gotten those like, ooh, another 3 years, you know, you get those itches. But I just kind of prompted myself. There was always another challenge that I would present to myself to kind of keep me not only just motivated and focused, but just, I think, evolving.
Yes. Mhm. How do you think being a woman in media is viewed? Have you come across any obstacles? Have you dealt with, you know, glass ceiling issues? Have you dealt with, you know, pay quality is very big and it's a very big issue. It's something that we talk about a lot here at NAMIC. Is that something that you've ever come across?
Absolutely. I think being a woman in, a male-centered industry, even back from music videos, it's it's been challenging. And I've been blessed because my mentors back then, like there weren't a lot of women in the field to kind of give you insight. And a lot of the ones that were there didn't have the time or felt very covetous. But, the men did help me like kind of navigate. But there's always issues of pay equity, of course, and I've seen the glass ceiling. I've seen different things where, I'd say, okay, I'm just going to go do this. And it might have been a little bit more challenging. Like that time when I wanted to be a director. And, I just come from running one of the biggest and most successful production companies. I put directors on. And when it was my time, like I couldn't get that opportunity as easy as I would have thought.
Mhm.
Whereas, the directors I put on were men and they were accepted and now they're big directors. It was interesting because I didn't expect that. But it was also, it's like, it's good to know that what's there, what your obstacles are. And, you just gotta kind of get through them.
We must know our obstacles. We must know our challenges. That's how we overcome them. Um, so during, the time you work so hard, you share with us that you're bi-coastal. Where does self-care come into all of that? Do you make sure to make time for yourself?
So no, I have not always been good at that. I have not. And I hopped on planes every other week, and I was the one. Well, Connie has a cold, things because I just ran myself to empty. I think in the last 2 to 3 years, I've learned balance, which was eye opening, and just really, being able to kind of come home at 6 or 7, and even if it was 8, but when I got home, I was home and setting boundaries like when we were going into the office, I didn't look at my emails or anything until I got to the office. I figured if it's an emergency somebody will text, but you kind of have to mark your boundaries because self-care is so important. And I was saying, even just with the pandemic, this is the longest I've ever been in my career in one city. But what it taught me is, one, to take care of myself. Like I've tapped back into things that I like, how to be present, and just those little things, those little nuances of things you do for yourself. And I think, I feel motivated, I feel inspired. All that is like it just rejuvenates you to be better at work. Because I think, BT wants me at my best, he wants me rested, he wants me in the right mind space. And I think those little self-care things, I wish I could do the early part of my career over and incorporate more of that. But we have to take care of ourselves. It only makes you better.
It definitely does. And I know when I'm feeling overwhelmed, if I need a break, I just take it. If I just need a whole day, then I'm just going to take it because I'm not going to be any good to anybody.
Right.
I'm not going to do my work well. So it's just, it's really important. And I think people, self-care has become such one of those little kind of buzzwords, but you must, and it looks so different. It could be just reading a book, binge watching, going for a walk, listening to your favorite Pandora station or whatever it is that makes you relaxed and happy and ready to kind of recharge.
Yeah. And
So,
I think those mental health days, or like even if you take a mental health break, like carve out some time that that you're just doing you. It can be an hour, it can be 15 minutes. To your point, it might be reading a book. And I think especially in these times, because now that we are home, the commute time, you're usually working now. The lunchtime, you're not going out for lunch, you're not walking. So I think you have to be really intentional now about yourself.
Oh, yes. I think everybody could agree, and I wish I could see everybody, that we work more now that we're home than we do when we're in the office. I feel like I am working like literally like 8, 9. Everybody's it's like, yes, we agree. It's just, I'm like, wow, this is different. But yeah. So you kind of get yourself relaxed and prepared to face those challenges. How do you face adversity? Is there anything that you do to kind of get yourself uh, your armor ready to face those challenges and to face adversity?
You know, I think the biggest thing I do is face it. Like I used to be a big procrastinator, and even when there's things I don't want to deal with or things I don't want to do, I tend to put them off. And what I've learned is like there's something I could put off for 2 weeks that when I finally do it and it takes me 2 hours and it's over. So it's really about just facing them and getting them behind you. And I know, I know for me, like there's things I'm like, okay, I'll do that tomorrow. Oh, I'll do that next week. Just so I try to just knock out those things that become challenging. And even, like you said, like challenges, they're not fun, but they're workable. You can get through them. You just have to kind of address them and do the work, the rigor.
Yeah, definitely. Have you ever let fear stop you from doing something?
I can't say I'm a risk taker. So I can't say I've let fear stop me. I know there's times where fear has paralyzed me. And then you kind of, I try to be very self-aware, like as I've gone through my career, like just knowing me. So I know I feel a certain way, that's fear. And it's kind of, once I recognize it, I can kind of work through it. But sometimes it is kind of, it paralyzes you for a minute and then you kind of figure out. And if something does that, it resonates that it's something I really want to do. If it's if it's something that, that moves me forward, or so I just try to, like, when I get the paralysis, just work through it and force myself to, really dig down and analyze, in my mind, like what is it that is halting this for you? And then once I dissected it, I can kind of get through it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Just step out on faith and just do it. Just like I said, you never know. If you don't take that risk, just won't know the possibilities. And most likely something great is at the end, on the other side of fear most of the time. So yeah.
Absolutely. We always have to kind of exercise outside of our comfort zones. And I think, for me, it's easy to get comfortable. And then usually when something challenges that, it's like, ugh. But those are the those are the instances where you find growth. And you never know. Like you said, you never know where opportunity lies.
And it's also a confidence builder also. When you do something that you were like kind of hesitant about, and you're like, you know what, I did that. I'm proud of myself. And that helps you to grow as well. And that's something that I do for myself. I kind of try to keep pumping myself up to do certain things. And I'm like, okay, well, it wasn't that bad. You did it. Now, next. So you spoke about having a mentor, mentors. How important is it to have a mentor?
So it's very important. And I think mentorship is definitely interactive. Like I think, there's a lot of mentor-mentee relationships that are just the mentor giving advice to a question. But, I think you have to do active mentorship. I think it's more than just, telling your journey. I think it's really helping shape your mentee. And I always ask the people that I mentor, like, what do you want to do? And I think that's just, even outside of mentorship, it's always important to tell your supervisors, your managers, let people know what you want to do, especially if the role you're in isn't the role you are passionate about. Because that way people know, and you may have a conversation. It's like, hey, well, you should consider this person. Or, you get, like I've had people on my team, oh, I want to be a writer. So what I do is I try to connect them with our writers that we work with. Like, you should shadow or do an informational. I think that's how you get growth and outreach. I think just as important as, and even maybe more important than mentorship, is advocacy. What I learned at BET is having an advocate in the room is even better. And not all mentors are advocates.
Right.
Because there's conversations that you are not going to be privy to that, one, get your names in those rooms. And it's also if someone says something that isn't true about you, to have an advocate to say, that's not true. Or this is what I've learned. Like, you need people in rooms that you're not in to fight for you, to put shine on you, and just to really, expose your name and what you're capable of to people that you wouldn't usually meet with.
Most definitely. And that goes along with building good relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Not burning bridges, networking, having a broad network, having a diverse network. It's so important to build those great relationships in your company, so you do have those advocates and those sponsors. So that's something that I think is so important, and a lot of times people overlook. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and a lot of times people they network up, and it's so important just to network out too. Like, when I came to BET, the people I came up as PAs, and like everyone kind of elevated in their own field. Like, one was a producer here, so your peer group you should network in too, because you all come up together, and that's like, okay, I'm gonna call Jack Benson and say, this is what I need, and you have real friendships that can help you.
Definitely. That's really, really important. We encourage networking here so much, and I know it's a little bit difficult to do that virtually now, but there still are other ways that you can do it, by LinkedIn, email, these Zoom chats. If you're in these, we're all on Zooms 100 times a day. You see somebody on the Zoom, say hello, make friends. I encourage you all to do it now. So what advice would you give to your younger self?
And I love that question. And my answer is it's just really simple. I think when I was younger, you don't have the confidence. I didn't have the confidence that, that what I thought could be right. So I would just say the few things that I would tell my younger self is, one, believe in yourself. Like, no one's going to believe in you like you. And if you believe in yourself, it gives you that passion to kind of get something done. I would say, enjoy the journey. My dad always used to say, you keep wishing your life away. Like, because when I was in high school, I wanted to be in college. And when I was in college, I wanted to graduate. When I was, So, but just enjoy how you get there. I think there's so many seasons to our lives, and, the ups and the downs. And sometimes we're so focused on the goal that we don't really enjoy the ride to the goal. And then I think the last two things I would say, and don't take yourself too seriously. Failure is a part of life.
Yeah.
And that's how we learn. I think the best producers, because producers are troubleshooters, are the people who've had the most, failure in learning lessons. And I think the last advice I would give my younger self would be to just be yourself. And that's advice that I've gotten, in the last, when I became head of programming. You get in these roles, and I think we all have, ideas on how you act in these roles. And if your ideas, if you don't think you align with those, beliefs, you might doubt yourself in the role. And, I've done a lot of leadership courses, internal, external, and you always take, I forget the name, is it the Myers-Briggs? Where it's like, you're amiable, you're this, you're that. And I've always wasn't amiable. And because my perception of a leader was that you couldn't be amiable, you needed to be, what is the other one? A driver. Or, and, I think one time the facilitator was like, what's wrong? And I was like, two people in the class, and all the drivers are like, yeah, I'm a leader. And I was like, the amiable, like, one, I don't see myself as amiable, doesn't mean soft. And she said to me, and she was like, well, who else is amiable? And she said, Deborah Lee. And that just changed my whole perspective on leadership. And when I got the head of programming job, I was like, okay, it happened very fast. And, for a second I was like, whoo, this is a big job. And I just remember, I was like, well, I'm not like any of my previous, predecessors, and someone said, you know what, just be yourself. Like, you got the job, just be yourself. They want you. They don't want you to act like this person. They don't want this. They just want you to be you. And when I was able to take that off and just walk in authentically, be myself, and handle business the way I do and lead the way I do, it was game changing.
Yes, definitely. And what do you think goes into being a good leader?
Being a good listener. I think leadership is about, it's not about the titles. I think it's about being a good communicator. It's about being a good listener. It's about really recognizing potential in people and really developing potential in people. I'm the type of leader, like, I'm not a dictator. Like, I do whatever I ask my team to do. I'll help them do it, but I also let them do it. But like, I think I just really try to tap into, people's gifts and their potential and let that grow. And that's why I think I'm such a stickler about, what do you want to do? Like, what's in your heart to do? Because I always want to lead people towards, what they ultimately are passionate about.
Yes, I think that's a common theme that I've been hearing amongst great leaders. Another woman that I admire, Carla Moore, said the same thing. She said that she really wants to like tap into her teammates' potential and help them, realize what they are really meant to be. And I think that's so admirable to have leaders, people in those leadership positions that are willing to do that. I think that's so important. Who are some leaders or some people that you admire who have helped to motivate you?
Let's see. So there's countless names, but I will say, on a career early on, Tracy Edmonds. She gave me my first chance at doing like unscripted TV years ago. And, before I met her, like, you just think that, she's a different person. And she's another one that was just authentically, who she was, and just cool and nice. And Deborah Lee, of course, because she's just so phenomenal on so many levels. And, she's another woman that, she gave me a big chance, you know. I would say from, let's see, who else can I throw in that mix? And women like Mara Keel, like, she's so creative and such a visionary and an outside the box thinker. Like, it's just watching her create was just amazing to me, because it's just so, and not easy, but it's just so effortless, and she's so forward thinking that it was just phenomenal. So I can go on and on and on.
No, those are some great women. My goodness. I've always admired Tracy Edmonds' career. Like, she is just like a powerhouse. Is there something that really, really drives you or motivates you? Is there something that really makes you jump out of the bed in the morning and says, I just want to do this?
I think more recently I've gotten back to, like, I'm just motivated by being connected to something bigger than myself. I think years ago I started a nonprofit called That's Just the Girls. This was over a decade ago. And I kind of had to let it go because of my career, just didn't have time. And now I'm getting back into, I just joined the Genesee board, and that's an organization out here that works with women impacted by domestic violence. I think at this stage of my life and career, it's really about legacy. And I really want to leave the world better than I found it. We used to do, or we did a show called Black Girls Rock, which was founded by Beverly Bond, and she's the creator. But to do that show and be inspired by 9-year-olds that were doing incredible things to 89-year-olds, it's just like, you always leave like, I need to do more. Like, and not only I need to do more, but I can do more. So.
Let me tell you, Black Girls Rock leaves me inspired. I mean, it is such a great show, hands down. Every time I was actually able to see it live last year, but I've watched it every year on television, and I'm always like you said, what I need to be doing more, because there's a lot of incredible things going on. So thank you for that program. Like,
Yeah,
that's
well,
something that we need. That
and you know what? I encourage everyone, support that organization. It's not just a TV show. And I always say this, um, like it's more than a TV show. And Beverly is just so amazing in what she's done for young women in terms of the camps and the, everything. So please, if you love the show, please support the organization in Beverly. Like she's an incredible woman, and that is her brainchild.
mhm. Yes, we must support. We must support. So the theme of this discussion under manifestation is take action. How important is it to take action when pursuing your career goals and your personal goals as well?
I think you absolutely have to take an active role and participate in your career. And by active, there's all sorts of opportunities. And if I just even look at just my BT of it all, like while I was there, I was able to create other things that I was passionate about that maybe didn't exist. So I look at take action as, being intentional, seeing voids, seeing how you can take, your person and create something that one, you're passionate about, but also helps the organization. Um, and it's important. I think a lot of people can be passive in their careers, and you show up to work and you do your job, and I'm not working weekends and I'm not doing this and I'm not. But if you really take a minute and just really look at your position and look at what you have access to, I think jobs and careers, it's about access. And if you're in the room with somebody that can kind of get you closer to what you want to do, or even if it's just a passion project, like I love film, like I mentioned before. So I noticed that BT didn't have a presence at film festivals in a real way. And, I went to my boss, I was like, let me create a festival initiative where, BT, you just have to send me to the festivals. And what I would bring back is one, the hottest films, but more importantly, the hottest talent, because there's so much talent out there that, isn't represented by agents or you don't get to see. And it kind of really gave us, it made sense. And, I saw that. Like, so it's all these opportunities that you can create for yourself. And I think we live in a world where you can mold the role that you want at the place. You just have to really convince that there's a need for it,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Yes,
do it
yes.
well.
So agree with that. Yes. Lakeisha asked, have you ever experienced imposter syndrome? And if so, how did you overcome it?
So yes, definitely. And I think what I've learned, I think we all, like I said earlier, like you get these roles and then I'm in different rooms. So I think initially I would get in the room and, I'm here to listen. But I had to realize that, I'm in the room for a reason. You have to kind of let go that you don't belong in the room. And then once you kind of let go of that, then you become more free flowing. And then you're there to give input. I don't think anybody should be quiet. And I try not to be the type of leader. Like what I hate is if I say this is what we should do, and everybody's like, okay, so how do you want this done? And da 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 and da 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 da. Like I'm not that. Like I want your input. I think everyone, you can get insight and wisdom from any position at the organization. You just have to really hear it, and you just have to believe that you belong in the room. And I think that's imposter syndrome, because I think sometimes we're taught that, well, maybe that was a fluke. Maybe I don't, and you beat yourself up, and you just got to kind of own it and say, and then step out on that shell and start talking and giving your opinion and, participating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, imposter syndrome is real. And I really think it's prevalent among Black women. Sometimes we feel like we just don't belong in the room. And that is something that psychologically, like we have to really, really, we belong in the room. Ladies, we belong in the room.
We belong in the room.
Yes, please, we do. So I'm just going to start taking some questions. Katrina asked, and of course I need to put my glasses on, being such a busy woman, how has it been maintaining or growing relationships, family, friends, romantic? Is it something that's hard to juggle for you?
Yes. So at one time, it really was because I think my focus was just on the career. So there'd be months that went by where I didn't see my family, or, it's hard to maintain relationships because I traveled every so often. But like I think with the whole self-care thing that started a few years ago, like I learned balance and boundaries.
Right.
And once you set boundaries for yourself, like even if you don't go see your family, or if you don't you're not in a relationship, like you still need that time. You have to turn off from the job, and you have to create balance, so you can have those relationships. Like the pandemic has also, it's been great because my girlfriends in New York, well, in the beginning we did a weekly Zoom, and
Mhm.
we hadn't been able to talk, for an hour in months. So, but it
Mhm.
also just feeds your soul, and that part of yourself is just as important as the career professional part. Our relationships, and it's what's important in life. At the end of the day, it's our relationships, our family.
Mhm. So important. Um, Let me see. Katrina asked, with the recent 20th anniversary of 106 and Park debut, what role do you see music playing in the future of BET, given how embedded music is in the network's legacy?
Good question. So part of my, me being in this new role is really to bring music back to BET. It's such a part of its legacy. I think
Mhm.
we've gotten a little bit away from it with all the original programming, but it is 106 and Park's 20th anniversary, and I'm hoping that we'll probably wait till next year to do like a celebration around it since we're all at home. Um, but I think it unites everybody. It's the common denominator among, age groups and genders, and it's global. So I really look to kind of really plant BT's music flag globally.
Mhm.
And I'm looking forward. We have some exciting things planned for next year. You'll see a lot more music on the network. You'll see a lot more emerging artists, with some of the initiatives we're doing. So I'm excited about that.
Oh, we're all excited because BET is part of our culture. Let me tell you, and I can remember, and don't want to give my age, but I remember when 106 and Park started. I remember I remember that, and it was a great show, and we kind of used to set our day to it because
Mhm.
we didn't always have VCRs, or we didn't have the DVR back then. So if you had a good guest on there, you wanted to rush to get home to see the good guest. So yeah, so we love 106 and Park, and we love BET. Let's see. Jason, hey Jason, asks, what three words do you use to describe your executive brand?
That's a good one. Oh, that's a good one. I haven't thought about that. Um, I would say I am a, a risk taker. I'm relatable and creative. I don't know if that answers the question, but those are the three words that come to mind first.
I love it. Charlotte asks, how did you prepare for your very first video as a director? Do you have any advice for its aspiring directors?
So my first video as a director, and there was only one. So and it's interesting. I was given the job. Immediately I hired a producer. Just because since I was a producer, you kind of get into doing all things. And I just wanted somebody to kind of focus on producing, and so I could focus on directing. And just the preparation. I had been around directors for so long. I think direction is really like, I think you should storyboard. I think you should have shot lists. I think you should really think about what your visual looks like. And that's something, you know, I learned all that from Hype because he was very into textures, into light, like every aspect of the video was intentional. It wasn't that he was just telling a story. It was like, well, if I use this type of film, because it was film back then, what look am I trying to achieve, and what does that look? What does it make people feel? I think so. When I did the one video, and it was just really trying to. I think I almost over prepared because I was a little, you know, a little scared. Um, but you know, there's some great books out there on visuals. I think all directors, it's more than just telling the story. I think you should really kind of focus on why your visual is different. And if you go back to directors uh, like Steven Soderbergh, like he has a very specific look. And if you look at like Traffic and what's the other one, Out of Time, like what's your style? And I think that all, think of every element of it, not just putting a camera up and telling a story, like the angles and how you want people to walk away.
Yes, develop your own style. That's important. Whitney asks, has working at BET, where I assume most employees are people of color, have you ever experienced racism in corporate America? If so, how do you handle it?
So I'm very fortunate to work at a BET because I get to show up and just be in the room. I'm not the Black woman in the room. I'm not, you know, I just get to show up and be creative, and that's been a blessing. And even if you look, you know, most of my career, 95% of it has been with, you know, companies of color, whether they were run by them or, you know, companies that cater to people of color. So racism, I haven't felt, but it's a function of where I've been.
Definitely. Fred asks, hi, Connie. With more content platforms, streaming platforms, and general market brands that feature more urban culture programming, how do you navigate the more competitive marketplace?
You know, it's really hard. So if I look at, you know, 5 years ago, where, you know, and actually I'll say 7 years ago, where there was 30 shows that were competitive on a handful of networks. Like now I have 300 shows that, you know, we have to compete with. I think it's all in the marketing and awareness. I think BT is a brand that is home. So I think we hold a special place in our audience's hearts. So they come there. So it's my job to really, you know, give them something that feeds their heart. I think with BT, the one thing that we kind of maintain that others can't is the per view, right? Like any show, I don't have to explain it. You know, you turn to BT and you get it immediately because it's part of your culture, it's part of how it's relatable to your experience. And I think that will always keep us, you know, telling authentic stories, you know, for us. And all we can do is just keep, you know, keep coming, keep them coming out. We're lucky we have BT Plus now with our merger with Showtime. I mean, with CBS, there's other avenues that we can, you know, tell these authentic stories. And, you know, that's always been the goal and will continue to be the goal because I think that's where we're a leader.
What kind of traits do you look for when adding people to your team? And what advice would you give the young producers when breaking into the industry?
So for my team, I look for, you know, integrity, work ethic. It's a lot of hard work and, you know, and passion. I think you need a team, like when we start brainstorming or something comes up, like my team, we attack it because we're all excited about it. And, you know, we all want to see, we like to create. So I think those three are very important. And then for producers working into the industry, I think it's just learn as much as you can. Like before, well, I was a producer, but before I became an executive producer, I was a story editor. I took jobs that kind of gave me insight to what a producer's world has insight to and oversight on. I wasn't a gaffer, but you know, I tried to learn a little about a lot of things so that when I was in the producer seat and leading, I could speak to things. And I think the other thing is just look in your peer group and get your best people around you. Like, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I want to have the smartest person in that field that does that in the room with me and on my team. And I think that's how you challenge yourself. that's how you get challenged. Because I can say, oh, I see this and it should be a blue sky. And, you know, the DP might come in and say, hey, but did you think about this? And that's what creativity is. And that's what producing is.
Mm-hmm. Janice asks, what do you do to increase your professional value each year?
I would say I just try to deliver some wins. I think with all of us and at our careers, the key is delivering some W's at the end of the day. So every year, I think, I like to be able to say, you know what, this happened, this was good stuff. And you can also talk about the things that didn't pay off, but I just try to kind of put some things in the W column. And then I think, if you are at corporate, I think it's important to ask for feedback on a regular basis from your boss, because a lot of times, that doesn't occur naturally at some environments. And in an effort to always just evolve and be doing your best job, you kind of have to see how you're being perceived and how your work that you're doing is being perceived. So I think that's something that I would put in your toolkit too, like set up with your boss. Hey, can we talk every 6 months or 3 months? I just want to know how I'm doing and if I'm on track.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely important. Geralda asks, how do you tackle standing up for your worth in the industry as a Black woman, rate changes, promotions, etc.?
I like to think I know my worth because I know what I do. And I know how what I do impacts the bottom line. And it goes back to just really knowing those things that you are great at and that you've delivered on. Sometimes it's not, no, I had a great idea. Like it's really, seeing that idea through. It's how did you change the business? Like I could say the film festival initiative was, something that I gave value to. Like, how do you give value? And once you know how you give value, then you can have those conversations. Like, no one can tell you, like, oh, well, you didn't do this, you didn't do. He's like, no, well, here's my scorecard. And, in TV, you kind of I get a report card every day, as my old boss used to say, on numbers. And did it grow? Did it not grow? Did the eyeballs come? Like, so you just have to be really self-aware, and you have to know where you are doing great, and you have to know your weaknesses as well. But you just have to know your worth going into the room as opposed to asking somebody, well, how did I do?
Exactly, have that confidence. Sean asks, how will the pandemic and technology change the media business going forward?
I think that there are some definite tools that have come out of the pandemic. I think initially, like BET, we did a special in April, which was right in the middle of, the height of it. And then we did the BET Awards in June. And it was scary. We were all asked to kind of exercise new muscles in how to create a show. And as scary as it was, I think it also just opened everything up. Like, so whereas, and I think in media and as you create shows in this industry, you tend to lean on what has worked already. Like, so I would have done the BET Awards exactly as I did them last year in terms of, oh, we're at the venue, we're not going to do, but this kind of forced us to think differently. And I think in media, you have to always challenge yourself to think differently. And I think with the pandemic, it's made people open to thinking differently. And I think it's just a race to, innovation. I think we've learned something on virtual award shows and, productions. I think we'll learn some more. I think when this is over, I don't think we'll go back to some things being normal, but I think we're going to take a lot of these learnings and just really pay it forward in different ways. I think everyone is thinking and being innovative now.
Yes. Yeah, this is the time for innovation, definitely. Denisha asks, and Denisha's actually on the BET social media team, and she's also on our team. During this quarantine, we have all seen some type of change within ourselves. How do you think you've evolved during this?
So I think, and actually no, I've been forced to just be present. I think my lifestyle before was always, okay, next Monday I have to get on a plane and I have to go to New York. Like I was always a few days ahead of myself. like the pandemic has kind of forced me to be present in my work, but also present in my life. I've been able to do things that I forgot I even liked. Like I went to culinary school and now I'm cooking again. I haven't cooked in, I think I ate out for the last 3 years every meal just because I was out. And it's just, it's forced me just to really look at me and get to know me in a different way. And, what I want, like, what do I want for my future? And, things like that, sometimes you don't have the time to really ask yourself and think about because you're always on the go.
Yes. We have a question that's asked, what advice would you give to an emerging writer on the business side of creativity? While I exist for creative expression, I know it's very important to know your worth before pitching stories.
Okay. It depends on what level you're at. So I always encourage when people come to me that, I want to write or I want to get into writing, I always encourage them to really do informationals with showrunners and writers that they really admire or on shows that they really love. I think that the experience of being in a writer's room and, just seeing how that process comes together is a very important one. You should definitely know your worth before you go in, but just realize, like, even with producers and even with, like, in the beginning, you have to give up some to get further. Like, so I would, and I don't know, and feel free to email me what stage you're at. Like I always tell producers or, writers, like get with a production company you really like and really learn the ropes. But it's hard. I don't know the context of exactly where you are.
Let me see. So we're gonna ask about 2 more questions. I want to be considerate of Connie's time. Jeff asked, is BET considering a yearly film TV festival to help showcase unknown creatives?
So we're not considering an annual. What we do is we support like ABFF, and we support Urban World, and we support Bronze Lens, and we support Sundance. So for ABFF, like we did, what did we do? So 2 years ago, BT has an initiative called Project Create, and we did a screenplay / director contest. And the winner of that contest, Paramount gave us $1 million, and we did the film, the screenplay, and that person directed. This year, in partnership with Tracy Oliver, we did Project Create for television writing. And we're actually in the final stages now. I'm gonna pick a winner probably in the next month or so. So we do things like that, and we'll do a Project Create next year. I can't predict whether it'll be film or if it'll be another TV run. But I would always check on BET's website and look under Project Create, and Create is CR in the number 8.
Oh, that's cool. Can you share some of your best practices for finding the right mentor or the right opportunities? Just ways, kind of maybe little ways that you can sneak and break into the industry.
I think, well, in terms of mentorship, I think it's who you admire and who has a journey that speaks to you. Who like my mentors won't be your mentors because we have different goals. So it's really just finding those people. Like for instance, if Oprah is someone that you want to mentor, like you really have to, you read their stories, like every article, like you really read up on them, and then you try to, support them in different ways or get into their sphere so you can actually meet them. But I also encourage, like when you do identify someone you want to be your mentor, like when you get that opportunity to talk to them, be ready to talk to them, like in a real way. Like I said before, like mentorship is interactive. It's not just, oh, I love your journey and can you mentor me? It's like let people know, like I want to be this, and this is, I'm having challenges. Like what should I be doing? Like really use your mentor's time wisely. really think about the things you want to learn, things you want to, what that mentor can give you, and be honest about it. Like, hey, I want you to be my mentor because this is what I'm trying to get, and this is what I can do, and this is how I can help you.
Right. Yeah. Clear, concise objectives.
Yeah, and let your mentor know how you can help them as well. You know, what was the second part of that question?
Any tips for breaking into the industry?
I say just by any means necessary. Like back in my day, like you would work on a production, you know, a music video or production and say, you know what? You don't even have to pay me this time because I just want to show you my work ethic. And I think I always walked in the room, I was like, no one can be like, if you give me an opportunity, don't mess around and give me an opportunity because that's what gets you to keep coming back. And when you get those opportunities, show up and show out because that's what I'll remember. Like, oh, we just did that, hire that person, or where's this person? And she did a great job, or he was amazing. Like, those are the kind of people leaders want in their circles, you know, for creativity. And just like I said, like my team, like they attack stuff because they are like-minded and they just want to win.
Yes, and take advantage of all those opportunities. We had someone attend. We have an event. We had it at Viacom. We usually do it at Viacom every year called Executive Speed Mentoring. Viacom hosted, and then we'll have some of the executives from Viacom serve as the mentors. And we had someone take a bus from 3 hours away. He wanted to work at Viacom. That's what he aspired to do. And he met one of the executives, talked to them, chatted them up, and he ended up getting a job there. When he works there. I wish he was on this chat, but he was determined, and he said, you know what, if I have to take the bus from Pennsylvania and I have to, you know, walk with my resume, and I was determined to meet this executive, this person, and he did it. And you know, sometimes you just have to really be focused and precise and just go for it. So I always like to use his story as an example because he used NAMIC, he used the event to really get to where he wanted to be. So
it's really, yeah, knowing your tools. I think we talked about this earlier. Like early in my career, I didn't know all the resources that were out to kind of help me network or get in. Like there's so many resources now that that people can kind of tap into. Use them all. Use them all.
There really is. Okay, we have one more question from Marcus. Hey, Marcus. Do you have a favorite moment from the pitch room for a show?
Yes. So I remember when Mara came in to pitch Being Mary Jane. And it was like you didn't know what to expect. But when she pitched that show, it was it's probably till to this day, it was so relatable. And I think, and when I talk about authentic storytelling, it's those stories that BT does that tap right into who we are as, you know, a Black woman, as a Black man. And it was almost emotional because it was somebody took time to do or was presenting a story about a Black woman in a real authentic way. You know, I love that Mary Jane was flawed. Like it was just so real. And it moved everyone in the room immediately.
Wow.
And I think that's as producers or creators, know your audience. And just with your characters, I think relatability is the most important thing. Like a lot of the shows, especially we live in a world of reality TV, like people just want authentic storytelling. They want to see themselves represented in TV. They want to see their stories. They want to see stories that they know and that are familiar. And I think that's why BT will always, you know, be at the top of the heat in doing that because we know those stories.
Oh my goodness, one of my favorite all-time shows ever, Being Mary Jane. Oh boy, I love it. So good. I think that might be it. Connie, is there any words that you want to leave us with? Any wisdom?
You know, I think the most important thing is to just really be yourself and do everything at 110%. Like opportunities will find you. Like I said, rallied for a position. The opportunities came because people saw me do the work. And don't be scared to speak up. Like a lot of people are scared to really talk to their bosses or their peers and just like create. Like you can create things. We spend so much time at work or doing work, like make that work for you. Like create those things. And you know, failure is a part of life. Don't be scared to fail, you know.
Yes, definitely. Well, you are such a woman to be admired. We thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to share with us. We've learned so much. I've learned so much. Thank you.
You so much for having me. I'm glad we did this.
I know it was amazing. I'm so used to looking on Zoom and seeing everybody's expressions. I know everybody loved it. We're getting a lot of comments on the side. So we want to thank you. We wanted to do this for so long. You are a woman to be admired. We have looked at you for years and just been like so proud. So thank you for being a great example for us all. And anything you need from NAMIC, please let us know.
And vice versa. And vice versa. I'm a resource, and whatever you guys need, I think the work you're doing is so important. So however I can help, however BT can help, however I can get Viacom engaged, just let me know.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Connie. Thank you everyone for joining us. We appreciate it. Everyone be safe. Please continue to wash your hands, quarantine, do all the good stuff, wear your mask. We're gonna get out of all of this soon, but we have to, follow those steps to get there. So everyone be well, and we'll see you next week from Michael Bivens. He'll be talking about the positive thinking, the power of positive thinking. And also this week on Friday, I'll be taking over NAMIC National's social media. I'm doing a takeover. I don't know exactly what that is or what's gonna happen, but you guys tune in to NAMIC National's social media, their Instagram on Friday, and I will be taking over, speaking about networking. Everyone have a great night, have a good dinner, get some good rest, and we'll see you next week. Bye. Bye. Thank you so much, Connie.
Thank you.